Thank you for coming. I have Jade, Juicy Couture in the Kiki scene, and Miyaki Mugler now in mainstream. So I want to thank you for taking the time to come out
Thank you
here.
for having me.
I know it's real hectic on ball weekend, so it's
Mhm.
just like for you to even take the time to pry yourself away from both your house families
Mhm.
to do this. It
No,
means
this is a pleasure. I mean, I've seen so much of the interviews, and I'm honored to do this.
thank you. I'm honored to do it. Like, listen, so first, tell me a little bit about where you're from, and yeah, tell me about like just where you're from because I know you're from China. Where
Hmm.
from China, and tell me a little bit about your like early upbringing, your childhood.
Okay. I'm from Hong Kong, born and raised there for 18 years of my life. Then came to the States for college. I studied musical theater. But yeah, I don't know, upbringing. It was kind of. I grew up speaking English and Chinese, so that's why I'm so fluent with English. I went to how would I put this? Not to brag, I went to one of the more elite schools back in Hong Kong, but
Nice.
it wasn't easy. I was definitely seen as or treated as, or I was supposed to be an academic weapon until
Mm.
I discovered, theater and my artistic side and all of that. And now we're here.
So like I know like Asian cultures specifically like Chinese they're really big on education.
Hmm.
So the expectation I guess for a young person is you're about to be a doctor and you want to go into theater. Was that a source of contention within your family?
That was, I mean, as much as I don't like the stereotypes, they are based on, partial reality. And I definitely did experience those stereotypes. I mean, going into college, my parents, even bringing up studying theater, my parents were like, why don't you do a minor in communications? And I'm like, no, but not going to have time. And that's not my goal. And yeah, but I've definitely heard doctor, lawyer, all of that. Because, I mean, to be fair, when you graduate, you make a lot of money with those careers. But, I will say the main thing that they really look for is stability. So once
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to show that, or when I'll be able to show that, I'm pretty sure they're gonna mellow down and be more fine. But it wasn't an easy road. I mean, I grew up in my dad's side of the family is more artistic, so I had a lot less like working against me on that side. But my mom's an accountant, math, all of that. So
Mm.
there's definitely a strong push from her side. I mean, a strong like push against it from her side. But yeah, it hasn't been as easy. But now we're here.
Yeah.
Kind of made sure this is what I want to do, and I believe I picked the right choice. So
Yeah. Most definitely. What would you like to do like as far as like educational wise that's aside from creative work? Like what field would you go into if you were to take that route?
like if I hadn't take the artistic route,
Yes.
I don't know. I grew up loving music and performing. I genuinely don't know if I could do an office job at all.
Right.
If anything, I'd still somehow work with performance, maybe backstage. I don't know. If anything, like marketing, something like that, something that still has to use my creative skills,
Mm-hmm.
use part of my performance skills. I don't know. Communications, marketing.
Yeah, I think
That
that's a
that
good
would be
idea.
it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Like just try to do both
Hmm.
and just focus on your passions, but also like, like your mom said, just try to have something more stable to
More stable. Hmm.
fall back on if need be.
Hmm.
So that's interesting. So I know you've only been in America for like 2 years,
Hmm.
being in college, and you go to college in Ohio.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit about the cultural differences from coming from China
Hmm.
to now being in the heart of America in the Midwest.
It is a shock. I will say the biggest shocks that I've experienced is transportation and food.
How so? On both.
First of all, well, Hong Kong is like it's like the Asian New York, so it's very international, melting pot ish. It's There's trains that bring you everywhere. It's very, you don't go anywhere by, like, you don't drive, you don't do none of that. So coming to the States, going to a college with a campus where I'm not in a city, it was a big shock because I either had to walk everywhere or hitch a ride with someone to get anywhere further than like a 10-minute walk. So that was crazy. Uh, no indoor malls because that's a thing in Hong Kong. That was also crazy. A lot of the food is different, especially when I first got here. Someone asked me if I liked crab rangoon, and I had no clue what that was because that is, and I didn't know Americanized Asian food existed, so I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what that was. I did not. I knew what fortune cookie was, but I was still gagged when I first got my first one because I didn't grow up eating those.
Right.
But those were gaggy. Trying Panda Express for the first time was gaggy. I don't know. Just cuisine. The cuisine was also a big shock.
You said queasy, the cuisine.
The cuisine, yes.
It was a Freudian slip for me. So yeah, like every Asian person, like not Asian person, but like person that is from Asia that comes over here that I've met in my life, they all say the same thing about the food. Is like the Chinese food that we have here, they're like, that's not Chinese food. It's like, I don't know
unless you go to unless you go to the Chinatown and you're sure that the shop owner and the workers are all Asian. I don't trust the food to be authentic.
It's like, I mean, but I mean, it is Asian people making it. So I guess, what do you think would be needed in the food to make it a little bit better?
I don't know. I've kind of gotten used to it. I also really eat anything. So I just, the biggest issue for me is, one of the biggest homesickness reasons for me is food, missing like the food that I grew up eating. Like, I'm fine eating any food any day. I could put junk food in my mouth.
Right.
But it's eating the traditional like Hong Kong food, the Hong Kong street foods, the stuff that I grew up eating, not having access, the snacks, not having access to those is one of the bigger reasons why I would feel homesick. That and friends, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say I do understand that Americanized Chinese food is catered to the American like taste buds. Yes.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Like every single culture has their own kind of like palate. So our palate is like kind of disgusting to the other parts of the world.
I would say it's stronger.
It's stronger.
In a way, it's stronger. Bigger portions, definitely. Bigger portions.
Yeah. So I've done a little bit of research on, just China as a whole and like the LGBT rights and how accepting it is of the LGBT community. From your perspective as an LGBT person, and you identify as a butch queen in drag, correct? How do you think China is as far as being accepting of LGBT people?
That's a hard question to answer. I will say we're getting there. I mean, there are steps being made, but I will say the general public, if I could say that, is not really like that accepting. Yes, it is definitely not as forward as America is. I mean, being gay is still seen as like, or dressing feminine is still being seen as taboo. It's very still, China as a whole is still very traditional thinking. But I mean, if I were to speak on my personal experience, I have to speak because Hong Kong is kind of a little bit separated from China, at least for the past 50 years. It's supposed to be separated from China. Hong Kong is a little bit better because we're a little bit more forward.
Wait, Hong Kong is separated from China?
Yes, in 1997. Before 1997, China lost, I think, lost the war to Britain. Britain took over Hong Kong, made it its own place, made it an international like city in Asia, and we were supposed to have a 50-year treaty where China was not supposed to touch us at all since 1997 on for 50 years. But then there's been recent political uprise because since COVID started, China has been, trying to merge our law systems together. And that's caused a huge political uproar back in Hong Kong. And it's really, it's a whole situation.
Speaking of wars and things of that nature, I know like also a lot of Asian people in my life have told me, there's a lot of contention between Asian communities. Um, I mean, even like, Korea with North Korea and South Korea, and even like Japan and China.
Hmm.
So, like, how do you view that, and how do you see it, especially as being somebody that's a part of a scene that, really champions inclusivity?
Hmm. As far as I've seen, speaking on ballroom, everyone that I've dealt with in the Asian ballroom scene
Hmm.
are very inclusive of each other, supportive of each other. If they know each other, I will say a lot of the political stuff gets put aside if you like, especially if you focus on ballroom, because everyone seems, oh no, everyone in the Asian scene seem to be very, I would say tolerant, but even supportive of each
Hmm.
other, because I think there's something about a ballroom that brings us together
Hmm.
that I really don't see that political influence on. But I will say that political tension doesn't really exist anymore between the countries, because I mean the wars are a long time ago. Uh, yeah, I mean, as far as I've seen, everyone are. It's peaceful. It's peaceful there. It's not like there isn't there. To some degree, there is still like discrimination and prejudice, but there isn't much. Not like forefront like.
Right. Not as much as in regular society within the ballroom scene. It's more
Mhm.
tamed in the ballroom scene, and
A lot
everybody
more tame.
is more accepting. However, person by person, everybody has their
Their
biases.
thoughts, yeah.
I get that. And people will probably say the same thing about the American scene as far as like, our colorism. Cause
Mhm.
like I know a lot of Asians have colorism as well.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's the same thing all around the
Mhm.
world. So, I mean, we spoke a little bit about just a little the politicalness of these Asian countries. How about your family life? How has your family treated your? I know they're a little bit unhappy with your artistic journey
Mhm.
as far as education. How are they with you being LGBTQ,
I
gay,
mean,
whatever?
they've seen me perform on stage in drag, rubbing my pussy out in front of
Right.
them, and they still think I'm straight. So that's been a struggle. I mean, I've never had a conversation with them about all of this. I've never.
They think you straight.
They think I'm straight, which is the gag because they've seen me in drag, fully like not. They haven't seen me voguing. I was in a show, but it's the context of the show is very like risque and very like skin exposure. Like they've seen me like ooh, and they still think I'm straight.
So in China, do like straight men do drag or something? I'm confused.
No, I think they're just in denial.
Right, right. They probably.
It's mostly my mom. My dad hasn't. I would say never, but most of what I have experienced or what I remember I've experienced is uh my mom being against all of this and my dad just having to silently agree with my mom because my dad's more the artistic side. I mean, he has no problem with this. I caught him watching a plastique tiara Facebook reel once like a few
Right.
years ago. So he really, I don't know, he sees this as like an artistic expression. So he's really not against any of this. And I'm pretty sure if I come up to him, he won't mind. But it's my mom who's like really traditional, really against all of this.
More
I mean,
conservative.
we've had multiple, I wouldn't say conversations, but she's raised questions and I've in a way dodged them in my way. But I mean, she saw me in person in drag close up for the first time because she always thought that I did drag for theater.
Mm,
But this past winter, Christmas, when I went back to Hong Kong, I went to a ball,
mm.
came back home, and both my parents caught me coming back home, and my mom was gagged, but in not a good way, not in a good way. She
Wow.
didn't say much to me. I don't think she had much to say. I darted for my room. I darted into my
Right.
room, but yeah, it was I. That's good. Yeah, it hasn't been easy.
Wow. Well, I mean, at least you have one parent that's a little bit more accepting, but at least she hasn't like disowned
Just
you
my
as
yeah.
well. So I mean, she is supportive in that way. So
She's supportive secretly. That's what
secretly.
I believe. I mean, I'm very fortunate to still have like their financial support, and still she'll check in like once in a while, but it's not exactly like the best parent-child relationship, and that's also kind of why Ballroom is so important to me because when I first found Ballroom in Hong Kong, that was family to me. That was really the first time I felt like in all like accepting family love.
Mm, that's dope.
Hmm.
So let me ask about your how you even found ballroom. I know you said you discovered it in Hong Kong.
Hmm.
How did you like come across it, and how did you even build up enough nerve to come out? And what was your first ball?
I love telling this story. So this was right when COVID started getting a little better, when like
Word.
when the social lockdowns are down, when we don't have to like be stuck in our home, going to school on Zoom. Like we had a lockdown, like we could not leave our house.
Wait, so you was already in school and when COVID happened, or no?
No, like back in high school, back in Hong Kong.
So you were in Hong Kong when COVID happened.
Yes.
No, first, what was COVID like in Hong Kong?
It was crazy. Well, Hong Kong had gone through SARS back in 2003. That was a little like epidemic back inside Hong Kong. So when this COVID thing started up, everyone was alert and we were like, mask on, hand sanitizer, so much rules. But we all
No, y'all
understood.
already wore masks, period, right?
Yeah, some people do, some people don't, but like because we do wear those as like precaution, but once the mask mandates come into place, nobody like argued about it because we
Right.
were all like, shit, we've been through this before, we've been through this pandemic, a pandemic before. We're like, we can't do this again. Let's stay safe. So everyone immediately went masked up and everything, like all the precautions were extremes. Like restaurants were shut down, stores were shut down, all schools became online. Like we had to like be on Zoom for everything. Yeah, the pandemic was crazy, and it was just every day I wake up, I go to Zoom class, and I just go back to bed. Like that was it. So it was crazy, but people understood because we've been through like a similar. Hong Kong people have been through like a
Right.
similar experience back in 2003. So then, when COVID lockdown started lifting, when like events started to like when the government started allowing events to happen or like started to allow like people to like go out into the city with masks on shit. The Hong Kong pioneer Ken organized a ball back in. It was a Halloween ball on. I remember the date took October 31st, Halloween, 2020, and my friend, who is now my ballroom blood sister, like blood bond, she knows more about ballroom culture than me, but we've both never been to a ball. She just knows about the culture. I was watching Drag Race, like
Right.
still out here, like watching. I don't know, and then so then she reached out to me and was like, "There's a ball in Hong Kong. Do you want to go?" And since we were coming out of lockdown, I was like, "Holy shit, there's something going on," because I wanted to get out of the house. So I was like, "Okay, sure, let's go." And then she started explaining the categories to me, and she started explaining baby Vogue to me. And I went, "Ooh, what if I storm?" Mind you, I had no voguing lessons before then. So then I stormed, and from watching Drag Race, my crazy ass taught myself how to do the dip.
Wow.
I mean, I still call it death drop. We all start somewhere.
Right.
But so I stormed in heels, fleet wapow. It was a hard dip, but
Right.
I stormed and everyone there gagged and they were like, who is this kid? They've never seen me before. And I was like, what, 16, 17 back then? So then after that ball, I was like, yo, I love this. I love whatever I was just in.
Right.
And I lived for like voguing. So immediately that night, I looked up if the Hong Kong Pioneer was teaching any lessons, and he was the next day, November 1st. So I signed up immediately and I went. And that was how I started voguing.
Wow. So that's interesting. So how did you like from transitioning from going out to the balls in Hong Kong? Mind you, I just found out like maybe like last year that they, or maybe like 2 years ago, that they actually have balls out there.
It's small. It's really small, but it's growing.
You know, the funny thing was, I was looking, I'm like, it's all Asian people, but I mean, you know, obviously because it's in Asia, but I'm just like, I'm so used to seeing like, you know, black people, Latino people at a ball. It was just so like different. Like watching the clip where it was just all Asian.
If you
people.
watch the Korean ones, they got so many people. I don't think there is any other scene in Asia that has that many people in ballroom.
In Korea.
In Korea, if there's like a major ball, it would be like latex level.
Where
like
do they have it at? In North Korea or South Korea?
South Korea. North Korea is like its own. They're doing their own thing.
Okay, gotcha. What are they doing?
I don't know. Whatever the fuck Kim Jong Un's doing.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, that's the.
They're not as open. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like their own separate place.
Like like they like starve people out there and stuff like that.
I don't know. But
okay. Right. Don't say nothing else. You get you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So like, what was your best night in ballroom? Like a night that you will never forget so far.
Ooh. How to answer this? I got a few moments. Hopefully, it's tomorrow on my debut.
Right.
Ooh,
but
so far, there is. Okay, this is back in Hong Kong. So I don't know if there's a clip online. This is back in Hong Kong. There was a ball. It was vintage themed, so the dress code was we had to come dressed in like vintage clothing or like references to vintage media, and I recreated Billie Eilish's 20. I wanted to go as Marilyn Monroe, so I recreated from starch Billie Eilish's Met Gala dress from 2022, the peach ball gown with the Marilyn updo, the pin curls and everything, and I wore that to walk LSS. I made it just to walk LSS, and that was a moment because that was when everyone in my old Kiki house was helping me get ready. And I really felt like the queen of the house. But from the moment I walked into the venue and strut down around the entire venue in that gown, I felt like the shit. Felt like the shit, and that is still one of my favorite nights in ballroom. That and the first ever time I ever stormed in New York.
That's dope. So it's not even the night where you won like $2,000 plus. It was.
I love that night too. That night was great, but my favorite moment would be walking out in that gown.
Yeah.
Just feeling my pussy and have everyone go.
Yeah. So that also like it's like interesting to me too, because like I've seen you walk one time and it was like a technicality on like how it was supposed to be brought, and it was like you got chopped for hand performance. But it was like just a couple of weeks ago, you're the highest paid hands. Like that's the funny thing about ballroom is everything like.
You know what the gag is? After that, I got chopped at Midwest Geeky Awards because I didn't have a prop.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's what I'm talking about. So it was just like tonight you're the highest paid. Next night it's a chop at a Kiki ball. You know what I mean? So that's the funny part, but.
I think that night when they chopped me, I was like, just give me the trophy. Nobody else was walking.
Right.
I yelled I got benchy.
I felt like if he was like, a little bit more experienced, they probably would have let you slide. Sometimes they're more harsher on new people. But I just thought that's like so funny, and I think it's a lesson there that, you can be the top winner today, but you still got to bring it like 100% every time. Was that your learning experience from that, or did you not learn anything? Where you're just like whatever?
Oh no, that was the first time I've been chopped in a long time, and most of the time, if not, other than the first 2 months in US, every single other chop I've received is because of dress code. Yeah. I think there was one time, I forgot which ball it was, back in New York. I walked hands. I got chopped by hands. I walked hands. It was calling for a red glove, so I bought like a black glove with like red LED lights, and I felt my shit. And they chopped me for not wearing black gloves. And Courtney walked up to me. Courtney Juicy, Mother Juicy, walked up to me. Said, "Get the gloves color right." I have never slacked in a dress code ever again. Yeah, I got spooked.
Yeah. It's so crazy. And when I was like doing my a little bit of research on it, I just thought that was just so funny that within the last like month and a half, you're the highest paid person for hand performance, grand prize ever, I think, and you also just got chopped for it at a Kiki ball. Like that's just ironic to me. But yeah, so who are like some of your like biggest inspirations in ballroom? Like who inspired you most? Like when you saw clips, who pushed you? I know you said Ken gave you your first ballroom class. So we have to start there. What house was he in?
He was in Milan. Now he's an L.
An
Understand.
Oh, they got their own houses over there. Wow.
Icon
okay.
Stel. No, it's Icon Stel's Stan. Whoa, Stel. Stan.
Okay.
Stan Milan, who is now, he left Milan, opened his own house of L, and a lot of his kids went over with him.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like starting with him, it was Ken that gave you, your first class. Who were some of the people that inspired you through clips? Who are some of the people that you kind of like just gained that culture from to kind of give that energy that you give out on the floor?
Well, if it isn't obvious enough, Star Revlon. Bitch, I can talk for hours about Star. Definitely Star. I mean, it started off watching lots of Leomi clips. I mean, who doesn't? And then Leomi was what got me first into the feeling, into all of that. Leomi, Deshawn, all of that. And then I got into Devo. Because back then I was still a tricks girly. I was still pulling out like stunts, every battle, every ball. And then I got to Star, and that was when the creative juices started flowing. And that's when I really started like putting story in my Vogue, putting my own character in my Vogue. So it's mostly them. And then from Star, I started studying Allura. And that's where the old school is coming from, all the old school stuff.
Right.
All the dramatics.
Right. So, is Star the reason why you like kind of wanted to do drag, maybe? Or no, it was RuPaul Drag Race.
Yeah, it was Drag Race. My first time getting drags was I was trying to do a Trixie Mattel beat.
Okay.
It was not good. The two big triangles on my eyes, it was not it. It was not this. But yeah, that got me to drag.
Okay. So, out of like all of those people, who would you say inspired you the most, the absolute most?
Star.
In
every single way.
Wow. Yeah, I get that. I get like the uniqueness and like how you kind of like get into character when you Vogue.
I also love that every single time she storms is a moment. Yeah. And that's the other thing that I live for Vogue so much. And if I lose at a ball, I don't really need like the grand prize, but what I really want would be like the moment, because I want to be the one that they remember, even if I lose.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, ooh, they didn't get grand, because you don't always remember who the grand prize is.
Yeah.
But if someone makes a moment, that clips go viral, you're like, oh shit, that's that bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely will say like sometimes every ball there might be like two winners. The real winner and the person that got the trophy. So what are your aspirations for Ballroom like moving forward? Like what do you want to do with Ballroom?
I don't know. I live for Ballroom because I grew up, Ballroom has given me so much that it's something that I probably could never leave. Saying now, who don't know in a few years, but my aspirations, I don't know, dominate, make a bigger name for myself, make myself known, definitely internationally. We'll see where that goes, but continue to create moments, and maybe when I am not a broke college kid, give back, to the community, support it however I can, help grow the community in ways that I can. And I also do want to definitely give a lot more back to the Asian scene, because the Asia scene is not as bustling as, Europe or America. So I do want to help develop that a lot more, especially like in Hong Kong, the scene is a little dying.
Yeah, that's understandable. Okay, and what will be your goals and aspirations for like just in life in general? I know you're pursuing theater and everything like that. What do you want your life to look like?
I plan to move to New York after college. Book Broadway, I don't know, book Broadway, book a national tour, stuff like that, get my life. I mean, these are just goals. I mean, I don't really have it. It doesn't have to happen, but if it happens, then yay me. You know what I mean? Yeah. But hopefully, I get my name out also in like the theater community, maybe a Tony.
Right.
Who knows? But just mostly enjoy what I'm doing and do what I love.
Yeah, just focus on it, and I'm pretty sure it'll come right along. I mean, you said you want to be known. I don't know if you're really known in the Asian community, but I mean, you're pretty known here for somebody that's like just starting to walk. So
I will say, I mean, I wouldn't say no. I also don't want to brag at all. But
right.
I mean, I've stormed Korea a good few times. I mean, definitely the Hong Kong scene knows me. The Taiwan scene knows me. The Korea scene most. I would say most because I don't personally know a lot of them, but most of the people I know like the leaders there know who I am. I would say at least the leaders in the Asia scene have heard of me. I don't want to jinx myself.
No, I understand. You want to be like humble, but like no, like you're known. Like one of the things that kind of put you on my radar was because like every time you were on a clip, I would notice you and I'd be like, oh, she's talented, but like people would start commenting you in the clip. And a lot of times people don't know people's names. So when people start like putting your name in the comment, I didn't even know who your name was. Like I didn't even know who you were. I thought they were talking about like somebody else in the clip. Because all the time I don't know everybody's name. So like that was one thing that kind of like stood out to me is like you already are like building your like fan base. And
that's the other thing I triumph well, I won't say every. Most of the time I walk, the comments are about me. Thank y'all. I read the comments.
No, seriously. And like, even though like Ballroom, like everybody is just regular people, but there is definitely a degree of celebrity to it. So just to have already be building that fan base, you're already on the right path. And like I said, they were like, who the fuck is, I was like, who the fuck is, but I was like, they were like, is that, I'm like, who is that? So I didn't even know. At first I thought you were a female. I thought you were like just cis woman out here walking.
Jack thought that too. So he gagged when I walked Realness at Kentucky.
Right. So that was another thing I wanted to ask you was like, what inspired you to walk Realness? But I know you're a butch queen in drag now. Do you want to transition into a femme queen?
Not in the near future. I mean, as of this moment, I don't. Because
it is on your mind.
It's come across my mind, but it's not like it's not something I am like actively seeking to pursue. Like it's not something that I'm like I have to transition. Like I don't. Because I also live for being able to switch from the butch queen to the femme queen. I mean, from the male figure to the female figure. I live for my male figure moments. I love being a butch queen. I love being a man. But I also love being able to switch to the other side and gag people, and they're like, "Ooh, that's a cis woman." Nope, drags.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
there's nothing wrong with staying a drag. If you, I was just curious, just because like I know that is a thing. Sometimes people will start doing drag and then I
transition to.
So yeah, so also like I asked you about your inspirations in performance. What are your inspirations in realness? Like who inspired you to walk Realness, or do you just feel like I'm real, so let me get out there?
Ooh. Well, I would say there isn't whoa. Let me rephrase. Plastique, his videos of him. I know he's bitch. If she was in Ballroom, if Plastique is in Ballroom, it's over for everyone. Okay. That bitch, hot as a male figure, hot as a female figure, and those TikToks of him like transitioning from like male figure to female. Ooh.
I'm gonna have to look him up. I don't know.
It is so fab because he's like, ooh, that is a hot man. And then he like waves his fan on the camera and suddenly, woman. I love being able to do that on myself. So that's why that's also why I don't really want to transition, because I live for being able to look good in both.
Right.
But that's one of the reasons. The other reason is, I mean, I grew up being told like I look like a girl. I mean, even when I was younger, before puberty, when I was still speaking up here, people thought I was a girl. I also had long hair. So people thought I already was a girl. So I just used that to my favor and started walking Realness and gagged the girls.
Right.
I really only walked Realness first because I think it was my last year. I showed up with a human hair unit, my first ever human hair unit. And there was one of the categories is calling for first time in drags, and I didn't know if I could walk that because I done drag before, but I haven't appeared in Ballroom in drag. And then Jade was like, "What are you doing, bitch? Go up, go walk, grand prize." So then I was like, "Okay, So that's saying something.
So it was really like your friend that kind of like just put the fire under your.
Well, it was father dating Juicy Couture who told me to walk. So I was like, word, okay, I'm getting up there.
Right.
So then, so that's how the realness started, and it's just been growing from there. I mean, my makeup has changed since then.
Right.
How I do my hair has changed since then.
And are there any other categories that you're interested in walking?
I mean, I'm kind of an all-around bitch. I sometimes walk old way when I feel like it. Like,
Right.
I know some old way.
Not old way.
In the future, I do want to get into face if possible, because
Okay.
I got the skin for it. The teeth. I'm doing Invisalign, so I'm still having like wearing braces. So
Right.
after that's done, we'll see how that goes. But I am interested in walking that, or like more of the beauty categories.
Yeah, I see that.
Because as much as I live for voguing, I also live for just standing there and just going,
Right.
what's good?
So I don't have to sweat. Because I could tell that you're like that you, or at least it seems like you want to be more multifaceted, more like all around, more can like walk anything. What I mean, it's kind of weird to ask somebody like that's 20 years old, but like, would you ever? Do you see like leadership in your future? Would you want to be a leader of a house, or is that just too soon to ask? Somebody that's just coming out of virgin.
I haven't. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really thought much about it. I don't know. This question spooks me now, but I feel like in a few years I'm gonna be more ready, know more about the ins and outs, and I feel like I'll be ready to,
You're still finding yourself, so that's why I said like it's kind of like too soon to even.
Like I don't mind being a leader. I don't know if I see it, but as of right now, I'm still green. I'm still doing my own stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that leads.
Give me one thing that has kind of like turned you off about the ballroom scene, that like maybe something that almost made you even step away from it.
I don't know. Sometimes the expectation could be a little too much, coming from a lot of people and from everyone. I mean, also doesn't help. Not to play into the stereotype, doesn't help that I'm Asian, but the expectation does sometimes be. It can be a little overwhelming, but I understand where the expectation is coming from. I mean, I also want myself to show up and be the best I could every single time and elevate every single time. But I mean, there was a period, I think last year, where I was not winning a single battle. I was getting my tens, but I was not winning a single battle. Any ball I was stormed, and it was really getting to me. And I was like, "Yo, am I doing something wrong? What's going on?" I think I did take like a month or two hiatus after that. I had to be like, okay, calm down. Well, no, I didn't take a hiatus. I lied. It was when I first started walking as drag's performance. I wasn't winning, but a lot of feedback I got was I wasn't feminine enough. I'm not using my hair enough. I'm not like playing with my titties enough. A lot of that because I'm not used to walking drag. I'm not used to watching female figure performance. I'm used to just storming as Tobias. So then that fucked with me. And then what brought me back was when I won the $200 at Detroit, when I walked as a Butch Queen, and I was like, okay, so I gotta stick to Butch Queen for a second first. But now I'm more tapped in. Now I found it, but I don't know. It's trying to keep up with my own expectations and other people's can be a little.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. Like, whose expectations are you really trying to keep up with? So not only just other people, but also your own.
Like my own, and I mean, also I'm in a house now. I'm in Mugler. I'm in Juicy. I got the expectations from those leaders to keep up with. Expectations from like my friends who are like.
Do you feel like that pressure kind of takes the fun out of it a little bit?
It goes both ways. I like the pressure in a way that it keeps me pushing, makes me want to do better every time, makes me more polished every time. But that pressure also, in a way, is like that. Sometimes I think, like, does that mean I just can't have a bad night?
Right.
And that I don't think that's a great mindset to have, but it's just kind of lingering in my head. So, yeah. It does take some fun out of it, but it also keeps me driven. So it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
It's just I can get a little bit more defeated every single time I feel like I haven't done good to my own standard.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, definitely. So I really appreciate you just taking the time out to even come here, have this conversation. divulge some of this wisdom, I feel like I'm capturing like somebody right on the verge of like stardom,
Hmm.
because I could tell how focused you are. You're everywhere, like you're traveling.
I try.
Listen, like you're putting that your parents' credit card to the use. Like you are everywhere. So I really appreciate, just having this conversation, especially from people that check different boxes than me, because I feel like those are people that we can learn the most from.
Hmm.
So I appreciate, you just coming down here. You're
Thank you for
somebody
having
that
me.
that has came from the other side of the world,
Hmm.
and you've made a place. Like I don't even think anybody could call you like a guest in our scene. Like you're just a part of the scene. Like the scene was for people like you. You're here. Like
That's
you
how I
said,
feel too.
almost every time you come out, it's a moment. If
Hmm.
it's not grand prize, so you're definitely doing a thing. What is your advice to anybody that's trying to fit in, whether that be just in ballroom or just fit in wherever, but still be your unique self? How do you do that?
Uh, I don't know. Respect
Mm,
um, the let's say community, right? Like respect the community that you're
yeah.
uh, trying to be a part of. Definitely show extra respect, uh, but definitely not to lose themselves in trying to fit in. Like, don't cut off too much of yourselves. If anything, if the community isn't for you, then it really isn't for you. If the community doesn't support you in the way you're seeking to, or doesn't live for you in the way you want them to, there's nothing wrong in going away because there will always be somewhere else that is going to fit you. Do not try to dim your light to
Mhm.
try to fit into somewhere that
Dope.
you really weren't supposed to be in. That's that's how I feel.
Right. I appreciate it. I like that. So tell me, I ask everybody that come here, describe yourself in 5 words or less.
I don't know. Uh, uh, I would just say the moment. I am the moment.
The moment.
Just the moment.
The moment.
Will always be the moment. You'll always be unforgettable and the moment. The unforgettable moment. There we go.